the war and pressure the world to bring more nations under control. Any parallel or alternative attempts to seek peace are, in fact, efforts to achieve a lull instead of an end to the war. As a global initiative, the peace formula has already existed for 2 years, and maybe somebody wants a Nobel Prize for their political biography for frozen truths instead of real peace, but the only prizes Putin will give you in return are more suffering. We must ensure food security. We need to bring home all our captured soldiers and civilians forcibly deported to Russia. We must uphold the UN Charter and guarantee our right, Ukraine's right to territorial integrity and sovereignty, just as we do for any other nation. We need to withdraw the Russian occupiers, which will bring an end to the hostilities in Ukraine, and we must hold those responsible for war crimes, not allow a second or third phase of this Russian invasion. And we need to make it clear, the war is over. This is the peace formula. What part of this could be unacceptable to anyone who upholds the UN Charter? If someone in the world seeks alternatives to any of this, want to do a part of what Putin is doing, the point they ignore reveals the desire they are hiding. And when the Chinese-Brazilian duo tries to grow into a choir of voices, with someone in Europe, with someone in Africa saying something alternative to a full and just peace, the question arises: boost your power at Ukraine's expense. And the world has already been through colonial wars and conspiracies of great powers at the expense of those who are smaller. Every country, including China, Brazil, European nations, African nations, Middle East, all understand why this must remain in the past, colonial past, which suits no one today, can be imposed on Ukraine now instead of a normal, peaceful life. I want peace. I'm asking for your support from all nations of the world. We do not divide the world. I ask the same of you, do not divide the world. Be united nations. And that will bring us peace. Thank you. Slava Ukraini.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the President of Ukraine. The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
I cannot help but reflect on the significance of this moment, as this will be my final opportunity to address the United Nations General Assembly as I enter the closing months of my presidency. Over the past 8 years, I've had the privilege of speaking on several variations of the essential themes that quite properly dominate the deliberations of this global assembly: the condition of humanity and the state of the planet. Serving the people has truly been the greatest blessing of my life. Indeed, being here this morning fills me with both pride and humility. Pride in the limited progress we have made together as nations, and humility in recognizing the challenges that still remain. My time as president has been deeply fulfilling, and I'm profoundly grateful for the trust placed in me by my fellow Ghanaians. It has been an honor to serve them and to contribute to advancing peace, security, and development on the global stage. Mr. President, Madam President, I'm here with a heart full of hope, yet mindful of the great challenges that still confront us. As President of the Republic of Ghana and as a citizen of the world, I'm acutely aware of the shared responsibility we carry. Our work here is nothing less than shaping the future of humanity, a future that will affect generations long after we are gone. Leaving no one behind, acting together for the advancement of peace, sustainable development, and human dignity for present and future generations, reminds us that the decisions we take here will define whether we rise to meet the hopes of billions or continue to let inequalities and leadership to act, and not just to unfortunate contrast of privilege and hardship. For too long, the voices of those marginalized, those left behind, have been drowned out. They constitute the bulk of humanity. These are the voices of the poor, the displaced, the vulnerable. We cannot, in good conscience, leave them behind. They should be at the center of our discussions and our decisions. Africans in the face of adversity, but we have also been disadvantaged by a global system that has generally treated us as an afterthought. We have been viewed merely as passive recipients of aid rather than as equal partners in global progress. The world we passionately need. Such aid as is offered often comes with strings attached, limiting our ability to shape our own futures. Africa is not a continent of despair. She's full of great possibilities. She's required, however, to chart a new course of development. Our young population is filled with energy, creativity, and ambition. The people of Africa are not asking for handouts. They're demanding opportunities in a new global architecture so they can have access to education, healthcare, and jobs to be able to build better lives for themselves, their families, and that no one is left behind in our national development. And we have shown that it is possible. Our flagship free senior high school policy has benefited 5.7 million young people, many of whom would have been denied the opportunity to learn, to dream, and to succeed. This initiative has transformed the lives of millions, positioning the next generation of Ghanaians to take their place as leaders in the global economy. But this is just the beginning. We need a global commitment to ensure that every child, no matter where they are born, has access to quality education. A world where children are left unprepared for the challenges ahead is not a just world. Beyond education, we've also prioritized healthcare for our people. Through Agenda 111, my government has embarked on the largest ever healthcare infrastructure project in Ghana's history. This initiative is constructing 111 hospitals across the country, ensuring that even the most remote regions have access to modern healthcare facilities. This is part of our broader goal of ensuring that no one in Ghana is left without the basic right to health. We've also taken significant steps to boost food security and economic growth through the Program for Planting for Food and Jobs. This initiative is a demonstration that with the right policies and investments, we can transform our agricultural sector and ensure that no one goes hungry. In the same vein, our one district, one factory policy is transforming the industrial landscape of the nation, generating the structural transformation of our economy, which is our major strategic objective. And in addition, Ghana has embraced in full the teachings of the Fourth Industrial Revolution and is actively pursuing an agenda of digitalization. Under my administration, we've revolutionized public service delivery by integrating technology services, to the digitalization of the country's land registry. These reforms have enhanced transparency, efficiency, and accountability. Digitalization has improved the lives of ordinary Ghanaians and has also laid the groundwork for sustainable economic growth in the digital age. And let us not forget the strides we have made in enhancing the rule of law and governance through policies that uphold the principles of accountability and ensure that every Ghanaian, regardless of their background, is protected by the rule of law. Madam President, contradictions that exist within this global institution. We gather here to discuss peace, but wars continue to ravage nations. We speak of justice, yet justice endures. Take the Russian invasion of Ukraine, for instance. Millions of lives have been uprooted. Thousands have lost their lives, and yet the Security Council has struggled to respond decisively, just as it reflects a world that no longer exists, and its failure to act in times of crisis raises a difficult question. What is the purpose of the Security Council if it cannot intervene when the world needs it most? Reforming the UN Security Council is a matter of fairness and necessity. The current structure created in 1945 no longer reflects the realities of today's geopolitical and economic landscape. Africa, Latin America, and South Asia. This lack of representation undermines the legitimacy of the Council's change, and the Security Council must change with it to maintain its relevance in promoting global peace and security. For years, I've championed the need to reform the Security and reform, which calls for Africa to have permanent seats on the Council. It is incomprehensible that the time for half measures is over. We need a Security Council that is fit for purpose in today's world. It is heartening, however, that finally Biden of the United States of America and President Emmanuel Macron of France, hopefully, the others will soon follow suit. We must also recognize that the fight for peace goes beyond government actions. It is a fight for humanity itself. In Africa, we have often borne the brunt of conflicts, sending our troops to peacekeeping missions with limited support from the global presidency of the UN Security Council. We must go further. Peacekeeping alone is not enough. We must address the potential causes of conflict, poverty, inequality, and lack of opportunity. True peace comes from investing in education, healthcare, and economic development. However, peace cannot be imposed from the outside. It must be built from within. African nations must take ownership of their security, and the African Union needs to strengthen itself to be able to respond swiftly to threats. Madam President, as I speak today, ongoing developments in West Africa are deeply troubling. Military coups in Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, and Niger threaten our stark reminders that democracy is indeed fragile and must be continually nurtured. In Ghana, however, we will remain resolute in our commitment to democracy. As my presidency draws to a close, I want to assure this Assembly that the upcoming 2024 elections in Ghana will be free, fair, and transparent. Ghanaians have demonstrated time and again in the last 3 decades their strong attachment to democracy, which they will not permit to be undermined. The Electoral Commission, supported by Ghana's security services, is well equipped to ensure that the will of the Ghanaian people is respected. Ghana has long been a beacon of democracy in Africa, and we intend to keep it that way. Of our enduring adherence to the rule of law, transparency, and the principles of democratic accountability that have guided our nation in recent decades. Madam President, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment in history. The decisions we make today will shape the future of our world. We can choose to act with courage, compassion, and a commitment to leave no one behind, or we can choose inaction and allow the suffering of millions and the degradation of the planet to continue. Let me end by reminding us all that the future is not something that simply happens. It is something we create. We have the power in this room to change the course of history. Let us not shy away from that responsibility. Let us act now, and let us act together. I wish you God's blessings in all your current and future deliberations, and I thank you for your attention.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Republic of Ghana. The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Rumen Radev, President of the Republic of Bulgaria. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
At the outset, to congratulate His Excellency Philemon Yang for his elections as a President of the 79th UN General Assembly session. I believe that under his leadership and through his vision, the international community will move forward the humanity now needs the most. Our world faces a range of complex problems, from the unprecedented. We are confronted with a complex array of issues that require our immediate attention, and my country approaches the 79th session of the UN General Assembly with renewed determination to promote multilateral and workable solutions achieved for the sake of the survival of humankind and the future generations. Taking this into consideration, we praise the Pact of the Future as a move towards a vital transformation. It becomes increasingly clear that our success hinges on a firm commitment to upholding multilateralism and the respect for international law, which are the cornerstones of our global order. This order that has been forged in UN by you and your predecessors is now under severe threat. Bulgaria has been always committed to the Bulgarian presidency of the UN Economic and Social Council and our excellencies. In 2015, all UN member states adopted with unanimity 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Nowadays, they remain more than ever topical and requiring full mobilization of international efforts. However, we must admit that the sheer deterioration of the international peace and security environment in the last years is threatening the fulfillment of our Sustainable Development Agenda, undermining the rules-based international order. Restoring and preserving the peace must not be seen but as the ultimate goal of the international community and is a basic prerequisite for the SDGs fulfillment. It has been 2.5 years since the Russian Federation unleashed a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. From the very beginning, Bulgaria strongly condemns this war, which led to hundreds of thousands of victims, enormous suffering and destruction. Every single day of this war increases the risk of escalation in intensity and geographical scope. The side effects of the war are already gravely affecting the economies and social systems of many countries worldwide. That is why the international community should seek ways that lead to de-escalation and dialogue. Just and lasting peace in Ukraine, in conformity with the United Nations Charter and the international law. Since the last year UN General Debate, we have witnessed a significant increase in instability across the Middle East. The conflict between Israel and Hamas after the Hamas brutal attack on Israel triggered a major deterioration, tens of thousands dead and injured civilians in Gaza, the total destruction of vital infrastructure, and mass displacement of people. We call for immediate hostages held by Hamas. We are also deeply concerned about the recent development in Lebanon, bringing a qualitative, new and dangerous dimension. We call for refraining from human suffering must come to an end. The only way to achieve sustainable and lasting peace in this region with its very fragile security landscape is the two-state solution. Amid the ongoing destabilization around different regions, the collective global goal for a world without nuclear threat remains more critical than ever. Protect and strengthen the multilateral framework. We remain dedicated to the universalization and full implementation of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, recognizing it as the cornerstone of the global nuclear non-proliferation regime, which serves as the essential foundation for pursuing nuclear disarmament and plays a crucial role in the development of nuclear energy for peaceful purposes. As we address these challenges, prioritizing regional stability becomes vital. My country actively engages that the region's security, stability, and prosperity are crucial for the broader regional and international resilience. Priorities vis-à-vis the region are fostering good neighborliness, improving connectivity, protection of human rights, and combating ethnic discrimination. However, a serious challenge on this path are the new outbursts of incitements of hatred. Fighting and curbing the aggressive nationalistic rhetoric all over the region and concentrating on positive agenda on strengthening multi-ethnic societies and the rights of the region. Ladies and gentlemen, progress on achieving the Sustainable Development Goals is the greatest investment for the benefit of the present and future generations. Bulgaria keeps on contributing actively to this common effort through the steady implementation of the National Development Program Bulgarian 2030 and of sustainable public infrastructure and services, as well as of places around the world where warring dynamics in terms of governance, democracy, and human rights emerge. As a present member of the Human Rights Council, we reaffirm our commitment to this noble cause. Bulgaria has never looked the other way, and this speaks up through our domestic policies, our membership in the Human UNICEF Bureau, member of the Executive Board of UN Women, and through our support for initiatives that empower the General Assembly and aim at accountability. Our advocacy for meaningful participation of civil society, youth, and women in decision-making process across the United Nations system and domestically have already yielded results, and our youth delegate program inspires. Bulgaria advocates for a human rights-based approach to sustainable development and looks forward to the inclusion of all stakeholders at the upcoming World Social Summit. Excellencies, we have focused on the peace among nations, but it is equally important to reconcile with the nature. Climate change is a threat multiplier for the implementation of all sustainable development goals. We urge enhanced action based on the global stocktake, more ambitious climate objectives, including the new finance goal at the 29th session of the United Nations Climate Change Conference. Earlier, we gave impetus to the panel's 7th assessment cycle, including the production of the special report on climate change and cities. Through various panel events, we were able to invigorate the science discussion, paying due attention to the climate risks in the Black Sea region, as well as to the urban environment, the role of cities, and the need to adapt to changing climate. Another challenge that brings a lot of opportunities as well is the need for an effective digital governance based on a multi-stakeholder and inclusive approach, aiming for a human-centric digital transformation and a safe and open digital future. In light of growing challenges to the principles of international law and the rules-based order established by the United Nations, we support efforts to enhance transparency and accountability within this body, co-sponsoring the key UN General Assembly resolution on veto use. Bulgaria emphasizes the need for the group of Eastern European states in a reformed Council. Ladies and gentlemen, let us reaffirm our commitment to addressing these global challenges with firmness and determination. The acts that lie ahead. Thank you for your attention.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Republic of Bulgaria. The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Chandri Kapesad Santoki, President of the Republic of Suriname. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
Gentlemen, good morning. Madam President, this General Assembly is of historic significance as we embark on a process of recalibrating international relations and establishing a more effective relations. To the President on his election to preside over this esteemed body, and allow me. Madam President, this organization was founded after two devastating world wars. Its original purpose remains relevant today to save current and future generations from the disastrous stability for sustained that the world is marked by a framework of collective solidarity, international law, and respect for humanitarian law. The conflicts that divide us are not isolated incidents, degradation, and breakdown of global trust. The original goals of the United Nations. Madam President, with statistics showing that countries are off track on the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, while projections estimate that almost close the gap between aspiration and financing. I wish to emphasize the urgent need for accelerated reforms and coordination within the international financial architecture, especially the international financial institutions. The Multidimensional Vulnerability Index, MVI, offers a comprehensive and inclusive framework that goes beyond traditional low-lying coastal states. We urge that the MVI is embedded in the operations of the international financial institutions, especially the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Apart from the MVI, we see other financial obstacles in place that have a major negative impact on our ability to generate development, especially de-risking measures of international banks, which are based on general assessments, do not. This must be addressed head-on if we want to be inclusive rather than exclusive. My country, Suriname, can attest to the system and to build greater trust for several global financial instruments to the detriment of my people. Since taking office in July 2020, my government has successfully started a policy of financial economic reforms, including the impact of the various crises and national efforts to reform the economy has not been easily achieved. We established a social safety net and increased several social benefits, all meant to make sure that we did not forget or excluded that part of our population from restoring a healthier economy. With global greenhouse gas emissions still rising, despite the need for reductions. Climate Action 29, Madam President, will we be repeating ourselves with empty promises and pledges, or will we take decisive action to save this planet from extinction? Madam President, Suriname is committed to the Paris Agreement. Suriname has also submitted ambitious nationally determined contributions and has recently a carbon negative country with this conscious choice to limit deforestation, we sacrifice economic development for our people. For this, Madam President, we are not compensated while everyone benefits from our decision. Carbon negative, we are in favor of a just transition to a carbon-less economy for the coming decades, but in compliance with the international standards and practices. In fact, we have already embarked in such a development path by introducing more renewables to our energy grid, utilizing technological innovations to reduce our carbon footprint. Over the past 100 years, industrial development of bauxite industry, onshore oil production activities, Suriname is among the 3 carbon negative countries in the world. At the same time, Suriname not only have the international pledges for climate financing not materialized in the way pledged, but access to the available resources is an enormous challenge. Simplification of the application and appraisal procedures must be put in place. We also observe that a large part of these funds finds their way in time-consuming and expensive studies, consultancies, and advisory services. In the meantime, the situation on the ground in the affected regions and countries is deteriorating. Often the requested assistance comes too late. Madam President, to transform the well-being of our communities, we must embrace diversity and work towards excluded. We must practice what we preach. Madam President, while the humanitarian and security situation in the Republic of Haiti remains of concern, we are pleased to note also through leadership of the Caribbean community, a roadmap towards free and fair elections has been initiated and a transition government with a clear mandate has been installed. We cannot leave Haiti and its people alone and behind. Haiti fatigue is not an option. We urge the international community to financially and technically support and remains committed to assist in whatever way we can. We urge and call for a more to serve more effectively the objectives of facilitating peace, security, and prosperity in Haiti and the Haitian people. Madam President, leaving no one behind should also include lifting the long-standing economic embargo against Cuba and its people. Adopting the Pact of the Future represents an opportunity to redirect a new path for humanity to address current challenges while laying the groundwork for sustainable long-term global issues as climate change, social inequality, and access to affordable health care and quality education for all. Small nations need the support for digital transformation, providing the we must, Madam President, utilize technology in a positive and constructive manner to facilitate financial inclusion for all, access to general education and skill training, but also telemedicine and treatment, as well as instant government services. Madam President, 2024, I made my maiden address virtually through the optimal use of modern technology. At that time, I remarked that multilateralism came under attack on several occasions. And 4 years onwards, we still have a long way to go. We must work collectively and with a sense of urgency and positive attitudes towards a renewed commitment to a multilateral framework that is more inclusive, more equitable, more accountable, with the ultimate goal to create a better, safer, and more productive planet for our people now and in the future. In conclusion, Madam President, the theme, Leave No One Behind, is a call to action, but is also a challenge. For smaller countries like Suriname, the global system often continues exclusion, sometimes in new version and new style. As we continue our renewed commitment to building a more just, inclusive, and equitable international system, we must ensure that no nation, no community, no individual, no woman, and no children is excluded or left behind from the promise of peace, prosperity, and dignity. Let's live up to the spirit of one for all and all for one. I thank you, and may God bless you all.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Republic of Suriname. The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Nikos Christos, His Excellency, and invite him to address the Assembly.
Madam President, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, I wish to congratulate His Excellency Ambassador Philemon Yang for his election as President of the 79th session of the General Assembly. Rest assured, Mr. President, of Cyprus' steadfast support for your mission. Your Excellencies, I humbly stood at this podium for the first time last year. My main premise then was that the UN Charter is not a reality. It is a promise, a sacred pledge that we inherited from our predecessors, from those who had the remarkable courage, the clarity of vision to put pen on paper, vision to action, and to solemnly declare never again. These great visionaries who had the audacity to build peace upon still burning ashes of war assumes the tremendous responsibility to look beyond the horrors of the past, to learn from history, no matter how painful, and to lay the foundations for a world anchored on peace and stability, respect for international law, the sovereignty and territorial integrity of states, a world that leaves no one behind, that ensures prosperity and human dignity for all. Burning like a torch lit from those ashes, this promise was passed to us. Their voices are echoed in the halls of this building, which stand as a beacon and a symbol of the only path to the fulfillment of the UN Charter, use of force and aggression, laying down arms. A world order that does not appease the aggressor, the violator of assembly. On October 7, against innocent civilians. No one was spared the blindness and cruelty of terror that Saturday morning their loved ones, their future extinguished before their eyes. Their screams penetrating the hearts forever, ever any justification for terror. There is never, ever any justification for such concerns. It concerns us all. Children are abducted. Those are our daughters. Those are our children, and we failed them. Let me be clear. Ours is a mission for no religion. Human pain and human dignity is equal for all, and it must be upheld always in each and every context. The situation in Gaza, ability to help the innocent civilians of Gaza, men, women, children, suffering abhorrent conditions, standing bonds of friendship and peace, as the European Union's light international community, a lifeline of hope and humanity, cooperation and multilateral tools. Cyprus works with the concrete support of the European guiding principles are the big force for good. Cyprus has acted each a safe forced to live in tents, didn't cause this war. They do not deserve it. They suffer in silence and cry for us to act decisively. We must do all that is in our power. We must act as leaders, as states, as international and regional organizations. My country has emphatically stressed the need for the respect of international humanitarian law, the protection of civilians, the rapid, safe, and unhindered flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza must end now. The suffering must stop now. We have also consistently underlined and acted on the imperative of avoiding further escalation and destabilization in our region and of the vital importance of preventing regional escalation. We are deeply alarmed by the recent developments in our neighboring Lebanon and stress the need for restraint. A step back must be taken from the brink. Excellencies, the wider region of the Eastern Mediterranean and the greater Middle East, our neighborhood, is no doubt a turbulent region faced with a multitude of complex, except the linear narrative of a region in turmoil. It is a narrative that ignores the complexities, but also the immense promise of the region and its people, the dynamics of opportunity and change that are unfolding. I hope the region can achieve when they come together behind a common vision for the future, committed to multilateralism, always in respect of international legality. And I'm convinced that the Eastern Mediterranean and the wider Middle East can move decisively beyond the prevailing narrative of being a region in turmoil and become a hub of stability, peace, and cooperation. For the region to fulfill its promise, there has to be a path for lasting peace. There is an urgent need to reinvigorate the Middle East peace process and reach a political settlement in line with the relevant UN Security Council resolutions. There is no other path to walk. Out of tragedy and suffering of the last year, let us exert every effort to ensure there is lifeline to peace. There are no shortcuts, no alternatives or substitutes to a lasting peace. There are no frozen conflicts. The vacuum created in the absence of a viable peace becomes a breeding ground for crisis and conflict. We can never be complacent. This is a painful lesson recent history teaches us over and over again. The Russian invasion of Ukraine, a sovereign nation, came as yet. Cyprus strongly condemns any breach of international peace and security effected through military action by any state against the independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of another state. Cyprus, my country, itself a victim of invasion and continuing occupation, has steadfastly supported the torch for peace in Cyprus awaits to be lit. This year, on July 20th, we mourned 50 years since the Turkish invasion of a sovereign European state. It violates the sovereignty and territorial integrity of an EU member state. 50 years, half a century of continuing Turkish occupation of approximately 37% of the territory of the Republic of Cyprus, of continuous violation of the UN Charter, international law, including international humanitarian and human rights law. 50 years that the displaced stoically await to return to their ancestral homes. 50 years that the mothers of the missing stoically await the remains of their loved ones, to lay them to rest in peace. Half a century of blatant disregard of UN Security Council resolutions that have also called for the return